to the Web3 Prof Podcast.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with Laura Fortey, who is the COO and co-founder of Reitium. Laura, thanks for being with me here today.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
So, Laura, let's get into this. Let's just hear right away, how did you get into Reitium and what is Reitium? Give us a little bit of background here.
Yeah, thank you. Very long story short, I come from a real estate family. I say I've been fixing and flipping since I was 3 years old. And so I love real estate. I believe in it. I trust it. I've had my own multifamily properties. And so I actually have a journalism and communications background as well. And so I've always had my own businesses, my own companies. I had marketing agencies before. And yeah, about 6 years ago, me and a couple friends were doing a hackathon, literally in a basement. And the whole hackathon, the idea was around create a real world use case for blockchain. And we were like, okay, so what can we come up with? So we came up with digitizing title deeds to put that on the blockchain. And then we realized very quickly that title deeds aren't really a problem in North America, but then it pivoted to how can we actually use blockchain and use technology to crowdfund and to allow access to anybody to invest in real estate globally. Because real estate is something that everybody wants to have, but most people just can't get in, especially in big cities like Vancouver, Toronto, everything that's going on with the interest rates right now. So that's what we decided to do. And we just had our 6 years the other day, and yeah, lots of ups and downs through the industry. But
so did you say 2018?
Mm-hmm.
So 2018 blockchain is not really a conversation in most people's minds. I guess so. We're kind of through a bull run at that point, so maybe there's some attention. But like, how did you first hear about blockchain? Like that, because that's kind of early. You're maybe an OG.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, like I moved here in 2016. I was living abroad. I'm from Toronto originally, and me and one of my friends, a fellow founder, female founder, we would go to all these blockchain events, and we were literally like the only two ladies in the room.
Bet.
And we didn't understand it. So we asked all the quote unquote dumb questions, and we learned a lot. And we really saw like blockchain actually has legs and can do really cool stuff. So that was like 2017, 2018. And yeah, we were kind of in that realm of tech and blockchain and startups and all those kind of things. So
that's amazing. Okay, so give us a summary of today. What does Reitium look like?
Yeah, good question. So we set out to create a crowdfunding engine and a crowdfunding portal so anybody can invest for as little as $100. That's our whole goal, our whole vision. And what we realized is we actually digitized the entire back end of the exempt market dealer space. So their entire back end of their compliance engine, from like putting documentation, getting deals signed, know your customer, anti-money laundering, all of that, all the way up until taking in funds and then distributing as well. So that entire process on the back end, we didn't realize we were actually solving that problem for the exempt market. And so during the pandemic, when, everybody paused for a minute, other people decided to start white labeling our technology. So
what is the exempt? Can you explain the exempt market?
Yeah. Where do I start?
At the basics. Start with the basics.
Yeah. So basically there's two things. There's the public market, AKA stocks. Everybody knows about the public market. Crypto is kind of public-ish too. Like everybody can get in, everybody can see it. The private market is, in our terms, I'll just talk about real estate, but the private market is like investing in private real estate deals or startups that have not yet gone public. Usually you can only get in if you are friends and family, or if you're an accredited investor, have lots of capital.
Yeah.
So that is the exempt market. It is not available to the average person, which is what we wanted to do, was to bring that private equity market available to everybody. So this is actually how most people make their great amount of wealth, is through the private market.
Yeah. So you built some type of back end that helped people just in the real estate private market or in other exempt markets as well?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, we could be industry agnostic. Our tech, we focus on real estate because it's what we know best, and it's what people can really like grasp onto. Where when you start talking about startups and other things like that, they don't have the, again, quote unquote guaranteed returns that real estate does. Like, it's tangible, everybody understands it. The markets are pretty stable.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's excellent. So, what are you researching these days, and what are you super passionate about?
Oh God. Oh, geez. Okay, that's a great question. On a professional level, definitely researching the AI world. I think it's like the buzz and like everybody needs to get in and everybody needs to start understanding that, how to utilize that actually properly to make our lives easier. On a personal level, I have been dabbling most of last year into the psychedelic space. So understanding, can I talk about that here?
Sure. You can talk about anything. I didn't expect that. That's not what I was expecting you to say. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So dabbling in that, like I'm really passionate about anything that helps people. Right. And so I really personally have some experience in that space doing my own medicinal journeys. It's that whole realm, like I think we live in the same neighborhood in Kitsilano in Vancouver, and that whole realm of the cold dipping and the saunas and the plunging and all of these kinds of things, breath work, like it's all part of that growth mindset and actually helping ourselves get healthier.
Right.
And I see that the psychedelic space is part of that as well. And I'm not talking about hero's journey macrodosing. I'm talking about like the microdosing, the daily stuff. So yeah, I dabbled in that a lot last year. I went to the psychedelic conference, which totally blew my mind in lots of ways. But yeah, I really believe in what can we do to make people healthier and back to themselves.
Do you know what I'm doing today at 2:00? Cold dipping.
Okay.
You want to come? Are you a cold dipper?
I am, yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, I do that all the time at Kits.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound a bit arrogant, but I was doing it before it was cool.
That's how I feel about breath work.
Now I go and there's never a single time where I'm not in the ocean alone. It used to be 3 years ago and 8 years ago that I was certainly the only person, and people would like take pictures. They're like, what is this person doing? So anyways. Okay. So in the world of tech these days, what are you doing creatively to grow? And what are you doing to thrive? And maybe part of what you just, maybe microdosing is part of that for you.
I think for me, and I think a lot of what I'm seeing a lot, and I'll speak to just women in the industry. What I'm seeing a lot is people really focusing on their personal brand, because, the more that, especially women, as we win awards, as we step into leadership roles, as we move up in different companies or move laterally to other companies, being on podcasts, all these kinds of things to elevate our personal brand, it just helps us, our network, everybody around us. We're sought out. I don't love the term thought leader, but that's something that a lot of people understand. So really focusing on that thought leadership piece, because that I really believe in human capital, and I really believe that your network is your net worth, which we've all heard before. So just continually doing those kind of things. And that's super inspiring to me.
You mentioned women in the workplace or in tech. Like, I find it interesting, like for the number of people I ask on this podcast, I get declined way more by women than men.
Okay.
Absolutely. It is way harder. Now there's less women that I invite, but percentage of the yes to no, far more women say no than yes.
Interesting.
Compared to men.
Yeah.
And I find that, and I don't know why. Do you know why?
I think a lot of it comes from self-doubt, and maybe if you were a woman interviewing a woman, it might be like easier or more comfortable.
Yeah.
But that's too bad. That's really too bad, because we need to hear all the voices, right? All the ages, all the genders, all the things. We need to hear everybody's voice and everybody's perspective.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So how do you identify and capitalize on trends? You mentioned AI. Obviously, that's a huge trend. You've been in blockchain since 2018, so that's still certainly an emerging and early trend. How do you get into these things?
Oh, that's a good question. And I think back to the psychedelics, I didn't expect to talk about this today, by the way. But back to that, I think that's also becoming a really big trend. And I really, it's kind of like the marijuana or cannabis industry, 5 years ago before it was legal. It's kind of that gray area. But that's a good question. I don't know. I feel like I'm curious, and I feel like I just follow my curiosity and say yes to things that interest me and excite me. And I guess there's a part of me that sees things that people aren't really looking at, or there's some quiet noise. Like even with AI, we got into AI like in 2019. So we looked at using AI for our platform back then, when we were looking at IBM Watson, like back in the day. So that was like very, very early on AI, but I don't really know. I think maybe it's intuition, maybe to a degree, but I just follow things that are curious to me.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, let's talk more about Reitium. So if I am just a regular person who's got a few $100s, I understand that I can go buy a portion of a piece of real estate on Reitium. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing all of the letters in the word. So how does that work, and why would I want to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So many people have come up to us and they're so grateful that they can finally participate. And I think that's what it's all about, is when you can't participate, or when you're priced out of something, and you know that thing that you can't get into is what everybody else is really making their big dollars at. So the act of being able to participate, we had our first launch just over a year ago, our first deal on our platform. And I had about 20 people come up to me that night and say, this is the first time I've ever been able to get into real estate. Like, thank you for making this accessible. And that's our true goal. And that's from the beginning we set out, we would love to open it up to have cross-border investing, where people can invest in their home country or in another place, another province even. Because right now, people want real estate, but they don't realize how difficult it actually is to manage it and go there. And it's a risk to have, do you do it as an Airbnb, or do you rent it out long term, and then carrying all those kind of things. So
yeah, I think that there's this idea that owning real estate is a form of passive income. And if you've ever owned a piece of real estate before, you know that it is not passive at all. You're running a business, and it certainly is challenging. And the landlord-tenant relationship is really generally tumultuous. I worked in luxury hotels for 10 years. And when I bought my first house when I was 22, and I had always learned in the hotel business, well, you treat they're your guests in your hotel, right? And so I viewed real estate as, well, these people who are living in my real estate they're just long-term guests. So I should treat them the same way as I would treat my hotel guests, right? To remove that tumultuous relationship. However, investing on Reitium, now you have an opportunity, I guess, to be involved in truly passive real estate investing. But why wouldn't someone just buy or invest into a REIT on the public markets versus something that they're doing, maybe a property that you're offering on Reitium?
Yeah, that's a good question. And REITs are also available. A lot of young people that we've interviewed and surveyed thousands of young people, and a lot of them don't even know what a REIT is. Yeah. So it's also educating.
Totally.
That's another big thing we're doing on our social media platform, is literally talking about financial literacy, educating, teaching people about what all of these terminologies mean.
Right.
A lot of them are very jargony and so far over people's heads that they just glaze over, and they're like, it's too much, I don't even want to go there. So if we can make it simple, and that's the whole point, is simplifying it. But yeah, you could totally invest in a REIT, but REITs get expensive. If it's already public, it's already seen a major uptick usually. Right. So, REITs have bloated salaries, they have other things. It could be a great place to start to understand what investing actually is. It's like a lower barrier being on the stock market and just dipping your toes in. But if you want to look at the private market, this is where historically a lot of people earn a lot more. So
if I want to invest in real estate, I go to your website, reitium.com. I see that there's a house that is being offered in Abbotsford. Okay. And I can buy $100 worth of that house. Am I understanding this correctly? Yep. So I own a fractional portion of that real estate. Yep. Do I earn cash flow? Do I get paid out, upon sale? How do I make my money back?
Yeah, it's a great question. So every deal is structured differently. So as the investor, you can pick and choose what you want to invest in. We love things that are higher yield, like student housing, senior housing, storage facilities are great.
So it's not just residential real estate?
It's not just residential, no. And so, you go on and you decide where you want to put your money. And then, again, it depends on the deal, but rental income monthly. And then let's say in 3 years, you decide, okay, I want to sell. Maybe that property hasn't matured to the 5 or 7 year mark. We have a secondary exchange you could list on as well to try to get other buyers.
At the price I choose?
Well, it'd be market or lower.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is market values as well. You could try to get higher, but and that depends, because if let's say the deal is very exciting and has a lot of potential, theoretically you could get higher, just like in the normal market.
So, is there a maximum number of dollars I can invest?
So it depends what province you live in. So it's $2,500 per deal, and in BC it's $7,500 per year. In Ontario, it's $10,000 per year.
I see.
So it just depends on where you live. Yeah.
And where are these properties coming from? Are you guys finding properties and listing them? Or as a real estate investor, can I use your website as a mechanism of fundraising for the capital I need to buy a piece of real estate?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. So right now, we work with companies who this is what they do as their business. They raise capital. Maybe it's a developer. And so this is their whole MO for their business. So they've got a track record. We do a huge compliance piece with them as well. So we bring good deals to the platform for our investors. And we do not have a problem of people looking to raise capital for deals. So people are always coming to us all the time.
Okay. So you're turning people away.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay. So, so if I want to, and are these investors, are they property developers or owners? Are they leveraging these deals? So they're trying to get, 80% mortgage and 20%, raising capital through this mechanism, or are they generally raising 100% through your platform?
Yeah, another really, really good question. I see that you're in the real estate space and you know what you're talking about. So again, it depends. Like in Canada, the crowdfunding stipulation is a maximum of 1.5 million. So that's not really a lot, especially in Vancouver. So let's say they're raising a $10 million fund. They might give us a 1.5 million piece to open up the pool to other investors. And then in the States, as an example, because we're actually about to launch in the US, the crowdfunding is up to 5 million. And
of course it is.
And
it's always better there.
Yeah. And properties are cheaper on, depending on where you go. So you could buy a whole complex for 5 million, let's say.
A village. You can go to Kansas and buy yourself a whole community for your $5 million.
That's it.
Okay. So, when the developer or the property owner is raising the capital, are they fundamentally coming to you because they have had problems raising capital? This is easier for them. It's frictionless. Why would they do this instead of just, going through the traditional ways of raising capital by talking to rich people and asking them to partner?
Yeah. And they still can do that. And they still do that. But it opens up an entirely new pool of capital. So, the theory is that opening it up into the crowd, investors could sell, current investors could sell their positions, for example. So opening it up to the crowd.
Yeah.
The network effect of the crowd. The investor pool is getting older and older, and the younger generation isn't sitting with financial advisors. It's the greatest wealth transfer in history coming up right now.
Yeah.
And back to what we were talking about before, maybe this is a projection that I'm seeing. I'm not sure, but it just feels like the younger generation, they're not participating the way the older generation has been doing. So we're trying to talk to them now to make them and help them understand and see what their possibilities are. So once this, I can't remember the number, but it's in the billions of the wealth transfer. So what are they going to be doing with that capital?
Yeah. Okay. So I guess now this is a podcast about NFTs and blockchain and crypto, all things Web3. So we haven't really touched on that. So what does blockchain have anything to do with this stuff? Because owning fractionalized real estate isn't necessarily a new concept. Yep. Crowdfunding isn't a new concept. Maybe the combination of these two things is fairly contemporary, but what does the blockchain have to do with any of this?
Yeah. So back in 2018, we're gung-ho, we're all blockchain, everything. And we really wanted to tokenize. That was the big goal. Now in Canada and the States, tokenization isn't possible yet for real estate. So once those laws happen, we're ready to turn that on as well. So, the goal to tokenize is to be able to transact a lot more fluidly, a lot quicker, and actually have people get their upticks before having to go to the market and try to sell their positions formally in that way. We use blockchain as our data and information layer. So we still do use that, and that's basically a lot of our data is housed there because it's very sensitive financial data, right? So is it publicly available information? It's not publicly available. Okay, it's private permission. Yeah.
So it's private permission blockchain with Amazon or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, but why can't you just use a regular database? Why do we care about blockchain?
Good question. There's so much room for human error. And this is actually what we created. We created this entire back-end engine because literally what the industry is using is spreadsheets. And what if somebody deletes a line on a spreadsheet? Then does your investment go away? How do you even track that? How do you defend that? And I haven't dug too deeply into that. So obviously they have mechanisms to be able to do that. But if you have everything on a chain where everything is identifiable and you're able to recall everything, let's say they get audited, they can actually recall the information in seconds versus going into a filing cabinet, finding everything in the Google Docs or on a spreadsheet. And what if there's human error that has happened or something's been misplaced or not recorded? So that's why we really like the that data side of it, because it's all right there for you.
Has using blockchain caused problems for you guys?
Oh, totally. Where
How?
do I get started? Okay, so back in the day, our company was called Reitium Blockchain Technologies.
Yep.
And in about 2019, we banked with Coast Capital. And they're like, you can't have your bank here anymore because you are dealing with crypto. And we're like, we're not dealing with crypto. We literally, we wanted to deal with crypto back in the early days and tokenize and everything, but we very quickly realized we were selling a security. We couldn't. We wanted to keep everything above board, not go Wild West like so many companies did and who unfortunately went under. So our bank said, you can't bank here, and they shut us down. So, and then we tried to open a new bank and nobody would take our business because they thought we were dealing with crypto. I'm like, blockchain is not crypto.
Right.
Crypto is not blockchain. It's
Right.
not the same thing. So we actually had to change the name of our company. So we had to take blockchain out that we could actually open a bank account. So,
And do you think that's changed? We're now in February 2024. The markets have shifted. Things are looking pretty good for Bitcoin and other coins. Do people still have the same negative sentiment around around blockchain? Sorry, and or is it moving at least in that direction?
a couple things, like I think, the Bank of Canada was doing a big blockchain project back in the day. I'm not sure if they're still doing that. I don't know. But I think so many people still don't understand the difference and they just get wrapped up in it all. I don't know if the banks have changed and do understand that. I think they do to a degree, but I think that a lot of people are quite afraid of crypto, especially what's been happening, what happened with all the NFT things. Like at the end of the day, the Securities Commission wants to protect the investor. And so if all of these things are occurring and they don't understand it fully, maybe they don't want to understand it, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I really do think that it still is painted in the same way as it was 5 years ago.
Right. So do you think that we'll see the opportunity to tokenize real estate in Canada or in the United States?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
And what's the advantage of that?
Well, the advantage of that would be doing things quicker. So let's say, whether it's real estate or other things, let's say you could tokenize the shares that you own in a corporation. Let's say you're part of a tech startup and you own shares, but you can't exercise those share options until X point. But what if they were tokens and you could sell at a discount and you could sell before your share option time comes up?
Yeah.
So it's an ease of transaction. It's a potential to have the ease of flowing within and without. The issue that people have is the KYC and the AML and like who is actually transacting those tokens.
Right.
But if you have everything on chain and private permissioned with names, with everything, because that's the thing about the crypto space is it's all just that big long number, right? It's just a ledger.
Yeah.
You don't actually know who the person is, so it's hard to track.
So we need permissioned, and we need to KYC, and we need AML in order for tokenized real estate to happen.
I think so.
There's not going to be this, I guess this idea that there's pseudo anonymity around, blockchain, which is a pretty core part of it. We don't know who they are. We just know their wallet address. But if we're transacting real estate, you're probably thinking, well, you do need to know who these people are, and approve of their ownership of this piece of real estate or this portion of this piece of real estate.
Well, it's security, right? So like a lot of these tokens are utility tokens, right? So as soon as you have a security token, you're going to be dealing with the BC or the SEC or the BCSC here where we are. So as soon as you have, maybe securities laws will change, I'm not sure, but at the moment it's still a security, it's still falling under those laws. Even though people back in the day tried to, claim that certain coins and tokens were not a security, and then the Wild West and the SEC came knocking to a lot of people, which we saw very publicly as well.
Yeah. So who are you competing with? Are there other companies doing this type of stuff?
Yeah. Great question. There's quite a few other companies. I mean, it's a huge market. It's $280 trillion market. It's the biggest market in the world. And there's quite a few in the States that we are quote unquote competing with, but I do believe there's room in the market for everybody as well.
Are they using blockchain, or are they just fractionalized real estate ownership structures?
Yeah, there's one or two that are using blockchain, but I'm not sure if they're like waiting for the tokenization, but they're using it similarly to us. But most of them are just like more of the crowdfunding model. So
yeah, there's this. So I mostly buy and trade crypto in Solana, and there's a newer company called Parcel. Parcel does like real estate speculation on a city. So I can buy kind of the tokenization of New York real estate, and the aggregate of the price of New York real estate going up or down increases the price of my token. Thus, I can kind of like get into the New York real estate market on average. It removes the opportunity for me to make like smart investment decisions as far as like, well, this is the neighborhood I want to buy in, or I want to renovate the place and increase value that way, or whatever the various mechanisms we use to increase value. But it's kind of an interesting idea, right? Because I mean, the whole premise of what you're talking about is like there needs to be a lower barrier to entry into real estate. And also there needs to be more liquidity in real estate. It's too hard to sell real estate today. It takes a long time. You're going to pay 6% to a realtor when you sell the property, which in the minds of many people is a massive overpayment. You're going to pay, $1,000 or $2,000 in legal fees. You're going to go through all this process, right? And it's going to take you months or weeks, depending on the market. But you guys are trying to find a way to kind of remove some of those issues, because it can be very costly from a time perspective and a financial perspective in investing in real estate. We also know that the objective of most people historically has been like buying a house. Like that is when I'm at like the peak of my success, when I finally bought my first house. And it's just not an option anymore. You can't easily buy real estate in most places with the incomes that most people earn, right? So where do you see the future of Reitium? What is maybe the next 5 years look like for you guys? Is it just getting more properties listed for investors to buy into? Is it finding new investors? Is it new, the use of new technology? Is it kind of a new feature in your business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a big focus for us is on the ESG component, because we get asked all the time, what are you doing for the housing issue, the housing crisis that we're facing? So we're looking at how can we build affordable housing on certain parcels of land. We have a pretty big partnership down in the States. I can't mention too much about that just yet, but there's a big potential down there to build affordable housing with a charitable partner. So that is something that we are actually in the process of launching right now.
So what, you guys would donate money to them?
So we are still operating as the tech platform.
Okay.
But we're facilitating the land with the charitable partners as the tech platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you guys monetize? How do you guys make money?
Yeah. So we actually, if you're an investor, it's totally free to invest. If and when you sell at a future date, there would be a transaction fee to sell. But we charge the asset owner, so the person bringing the property to the platform, to raise capital for the deal. So we actually charge them, and then the investors aren't charged for. Yeah.
And is the fees that they're paying publicly available, or is that negotiable per asset owner?
Yeah, it could be negotiable.
Like how much are they paying? Are they paying like 3% to you guys, or 5%, or is that not something?
3 to 5%. Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
I nailed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys are taking a fee of 3 to 5% effectively for raising capital on behalf of the asset owner. So do you guys market these properties? Are you guys a marketing engine, or is it really up to the asset owner to communicate to the world, hey, we've got this apartment building in Phoenix that we're buying. Please go and invest and come along with us.
Yeah. Ideally, we would love to be able to be a marketing engine, but legally we can't talk about the deals at all.
Oh, really?
Which is kind of interesting. So then we're in kind of a spot where we work with the asset owner. So they're the ones who actually market to the crowd and who market to everybody we can say we have a deal on the platform. Here's the basics of what it is, but we can't talk about returns. We can't talk about specifics. And that's why we really are the engine, which pairs up the two for the two-sided marketplace. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So from a legal perspective with these asset owners, are they So I've understood that I can go ahead and raise capital from, kind of friends and family and people I know, before I start being investigated from the perspective of a security. Once we move from kind of non-arm's length situations, now I'm like raising capital and I need to either be, working with people who are accredited investors. So how are these asset owners getting around that? Or are they, functioning in some kind of compliance?
Yeah, so we're the compliance engine. So we have the license to do the crowdfunding. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they use our tech, which includes the compliance engine, and it's a crowdfunding approach.
Yeah.
So we have all the licenses to do crowdfunding, and then, within certain provinces, so we can talk to those people from those certain provinces to offer the fact that there's deals on the platform and they can come take a look. So.
Oh, interesting. So, okay. So the 3 to 5% I'm paying to you is not just for the technology, but it's also the fact that you've been approved by the government and they said, okay, you're good to go. And I guess then you have to vet me to make sure that I'm also going to be a legitimate actor in this deal.
Yeah. And so that's why we go through like a 6-step process to identify, like, is this what you do for a business? How long have you been doing it? How many assets under management? Like all of those kind of things, because the last thing that we want to do is bring a deal to the platform and then, offering it to the crowd, and the crowd is first time investors and isn't, it doesn't work out or something like that. So that's what we really want to avoid. Okay. So we really actually audit the asset owners coming out of the platform.
What success stories do you guys have?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say our biggest success story is actually white labeling our platform. So during the pandemic, everything had to pause. It took us 2.5 years to get our licensing through the pandemic. And so what we realized is we had actually digitized the entire back end of the exempt market dealer market, which I was talking about earlier. And so we have a bunch of customers on that end who are white labeling our tech. So they've processed over 22 million through the platform, through our technology, from over 3,000 investors based on our white label engine. So these are like EMDs who have deals on their shelf. They usually only deal with accredited investors. They have been transacting for a long time, and so it's not our brand on the outside. Obviously, that's what a white label is, but it's all powered by our engine.
What's an EMD?
The exempt market dealer.
Exempt market dealer.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, let's wrap things up. What do you want to leave us with? Where can we learn about you and Reitium? And you can throw in anything at this point.
Yeah, great question. Reitium.com. Best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Laura Fortey. We are raising capital right now. We're raising a $3 million round. This is our seed round. As we launch in the States, we really want to enter that market appropriately with our go-to-market and all of the things. I always say, like, what if 20,000 people come to the platform? We need customer service. And that would be an amazing problem to have. Yeah. But we really want to, especially as a Canadian company launching in the States, we really want to do it properly. So that's what this $3 million is going towards. We're looking for investors right now, asset owners always who want to raise capital on our platform. And then, of course, the crowd who's interested in investing in deals. Yeah.
That's amazing. Laura, it's been great to chat with you, to learn about Reitium. I think it's really cool. For me, it's super interesting having kind of the intersection of my interest in real estate investing and blockchain and seeing how you guys are leveraging, kind of the greatest asset in the world in real estate and this amazing technology that blockchain is. I appreciate, the conversation. And I think it's been super helpful for people to understand kind of the depth and various use cases from the perspective of blockchain. Thanks for joining us today. Please hit the subscribe button for the Web3 Prof podcast. And I hope you enjoy some of our upcoming episodes. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.